Hello, good afternoon. Today we have to talk about applications of affinity chromatography. In previous lectures, we have talked about principle of affinity chromatography, its working mechanism, the details about various type of ligands that are used to prepare the column, how to activate the column, how to run the column, how to approach elution system, elution, different elution methods of the chromatography system, and some examples of various ligands selectively used for biological purposes, separation of biomolecules, etc. Right? So, in today's discussion, we have to talk about applications. So, as we all know, over uh, many decades, the uh, affinity chromatography is being used for various purposes with respect to purification, separation of biomolecules, right? So, what are these applications, and in what different ways we can explore chromatography, especially the affinity principle for preparation of materials, may it be for research or may it be for uh, production purposes. So during discussion, we have talked about monoclonal antibody production and its importance and its use in therapeutics. So how and what kind of affinity columns do we use that we have talked about. Also, we have talked about how to define the glycoproteins, how to separate those from non-glycolylated proteins or from glycoforms from other glycoforms, etc. Right? So, wherein we use lectins as uh, the ligand, right? So, when it comes to application of uh, affinity chromatography, the technique we can say has become increasingly very important in work with biological samples and pharmaceutical agents like therapeutic agent, monoclonal antibody we talked. Similarly, yesterday's discussion we have talked about the fragments of antibodies, right? So these are when it comes to therapeutic applications of biomolecules. So affinity chromatography is based on the technique where we use biologically related agents as stationary phase, which are going to selectively retain the analyte, or maybe you can use this technique for study of biological interactions, right? Specificity is going to be explored, qualitatively study the analyte, also for quantification, uh, uh, also for purification of the analyte. So uh, the different aspects of column chromatography where competition is used. We have talked about different approaches of affinity chromatography uh, and its use in measurement of equilibrium constants, rate constant, or competition displacement effects, uh, use of immobilized enzyme reactors, then dye ligands and aptamers. All this we have discussed in previous lectures. So when it comes to application, surely it is about purification of proteins and all other biomolecules which are having importance uh, in therapeutics or in you can say pharmaceutical applications or even diagnostic applications. So you have to prepare that biomolecule purified form. So many a times we are looking for a single step of purification, chromatographic separation when we talk about of any analyte from a biological source. So how after the cell lysis different proteins are purified based on various principles of chromatography, and how affinity chromatography is going to give us a single step purification that we have talked earlier. So in this context, we can say key affinity chromatography and its types when we discuss, that is how different ligands are used, and based on that you can say the applications are. For example, boronate affinity chromatography, which is used uh, uh, where where separation method uses boronate as the affinity ligand, right? At basic pH, most of the boronate derivatives will bind to the target, and the target is the one which contains cis diol groups, right? For example, they are present in many of the carbohydrate containing compounds. So boronate columns have been used for several decades, you can say, in laboratories, say clinical laboratories, for quantification also. But again, here quantification of example to say is glycated hemoglobin, HbA1c, for example, that is most common factor that we measure to assess the long term diabetes and its management. HbA1c, glycated hemoglobin. So for purification of this glycated hemoglobin, boronate affinity chromatography is explored. Of course, uh, here for every analyte you are going to have a specific ligand that is to be attached, and based on that you are going to have variations in the support matrices. For example, in immunoaffinity chromatography, use of affinity columns where you have antibodies that are immobilized or related agents which are immobilized onto the support matrix. So many of these immunoaffinity methods, when you talk about, are used for isolation and purification of hormones, enzymes, say peptides, viruses, and other relevant substances. So the affinity ligand, the antibodies, can be used on traditional affinity supports like say agarose. Yes, and because we are using antibody here, we are referring it to as immunoaffinity chromatography. So here, this chromatographic system application, when you are talking about based on the ligand that is applied, you can find the names given to the technique. So it could be one of the ways it can be used for purification. Similarly, analysis of the analyte. For example, you can perform competitive binding immunoassays by immunoaffinity chromatography. So it's not only for purification that you are using antibodies as the mm, ligand and purify the analyte of your interest. However, you can use this technique for immunoassay where competitive binding is explored. So uh, competitive or non-competitive immunoassays, they are common, and where for example say in competitive binding immunoassays, competition between the target analyte and a labeled analyte analog, right? So the ligand, so we have studied is generally uh, the structural analog of the enzyme substrate. When you are purifying an enzyme protein, then ligand is having structural similarity with the substrate of the enzyme, but it is not actual substrate. So substrate analogs are used as competitors. So similarly here, when we are talking about competitive immunoassays, we are going to use the target analyte, which is going to be used, and a labeled analyte analog. Labeled because you can quantify it, and an analog is similar, indicates similarity. So you are going to use in competitive immunoassay, you are going to involve competition between target analyte and a labeled analyte analog for a limited number of binding sites in the antibody column. So the Retained fraction you can quantify, or non-retained fraction of the labeled analog you can detect and quantify. So for detection and quantification, of course, we can explore other principles like fluorescence, absorbance, or electrochemical formats, or chemiluminescence, etc. So for detection methods, right? So depending upon what kind of a um, analog label is there. So what kind of a label you have used in the labeling the structural analog of the analyte. So competitive binding immunoassays is one of the known applications, you can say, of immunoaffinity. Similarly, you can talk about I'm sorry, you can talk about use of this immuno use of affinity chromatography for purification of viruses and virus-like particles. So viruses and virus-like particles we know are very important in therapeutics and you can say biopharmaceuticals, right? For example, they are used in preparation of vaccines or viral vector applications, right? Uh, so you need to have a product purification, which is very required. Say if you are preparing a vaccine that is to be given or administered to a human being or any animal, then it should be so pure that it should not evoke non-related or unrelated response because of presence of unrelated contaminants, you can say. So the virus preparation should be very specific and very pure in nature. So considering the safety aspects for the patients, very extensively pure product is required, right? So that can be achieved by uh, affinity chromatography. Of course, when you are preparing virus preparation, the steps are like you are going to grow that virus in cell culture, right? I'm sorry. So grow it in the cell culture, and then you are to go for mm, uh, purification. So when we talk about purification, the initial clarification is required, where you are going to separate the cells from the cell. You don't want the cells, but you want the antibody. Sorry, the virus particles produced by the cells which are going to get released. So you may go for initial clarification using filtration or centrifugation, right? So centrifuge based centrifuge filtration also can separate the particles and from unwanted cell debris materials, so that you can proceed with for initial clarification. Then you have to do purification. So when we say purification, you have to use at least two orthogonal techniques. So maybe those like main purification techniques and secondary purification technique. So when we talk about main purification techniques, you have to go for different types of chromatographic methods, and secondary purification system, again you have uh, different mechanisms and principles working, but you have to choose any two of these so that you are going to go for a pure and clean product, right? So when we are talking about chromatographic approaches, there are different techniques that are available, and for a particular product you have to have the optimum possible method to be decided or developed, you can say. So possible approaches when we are talking about purification of a virus from cell culture and use of chromatography, then you are going to have approaches like, say, based on ion exchange chromatography, where pH is the working principle, and ions are going to be selectively picked up or retained on the chromatographic column. This we will learn in details in some other uh, lectures when we learn about ion exchange chromatography. But when it comes to virus purification, yes, pH driven methods, you can use ion exchange. Similarly, hydrophobic interactions you can use. You can go for gel exclusion chromatography for size dependent separation principles. And of course, last and not the least but most important is affinity application. So, in addition to combined approaches, one, two, or three of these together, so you can say mixed mode resins also have been recently described, and for certain mixed mode size exclusion chromatography resins, most options for separating large virus particles from smaller DNA and protein contaminants are possible. So, in short, to say, chromatographic methods are explored for uh, purification of viruses that have therapeutic applications, and you can have combination of different chromatographic principles either in sequence, or as I said earlier, maybe you are having a mixed mode chromatographic columns which are used. So to look into the uh, details about applications of chromatography, I can just share the PowerPoint presentation. All right. So this is what I'm talking about. That when we are talking about purification of virus particles, so viruses are grown in cell culture, and you have to harvest that cell culture. So clarification technique followed by main purification technique and secondary purification technique. So when we talk about clarification, you can go for cross flow filtration, or you may go for centrifugation, right? You may then proceed to main purification methods where uh, uh, again filtration could be one of the methods, but chromatographic techniques they are applied so that selectivity is enhanced. And in the second purification step, where you are going to polish your product, define the very defined preparation you are going to have. So you may have flow through chromatography, cross flow filtration, density gradient centrifugation, as well as affinity chromatography as a method for uh, uh, purification. So virus inactivation is required in certain cases where you have to have irradiation or chemical that are used. So in certain cases you have to like have, I'm sorry, you have the optimized methods available. But when it comes to every new virus, the method is to be uh, optimized again, because every virus has its unique nature and unique properties. So when you are purifying it, you have to optimize the process. Now, when it comes to purification of process, as you are seeing in the diagram, there are different modes that you can use when it is affinity chromatography that is explored in as a main or primary purification system, or the polishing system that is just to get the final product. You can use chromatography column where antibodies are used in the column, or you are going to use lectins, you are going to use carbohydrate based sport matrices, or you may use aptamers. We have seen what are they and how do they function in the previous lecture, so I'm not going to repeat on this. And of course, binding proteins could be another strategy to prepare the support matrix based on affinity principle. Now, as I said, every virus has its own specific surface uh, structure, and chemically they are going to be different. You have to select the appropriate ligand and appropriate support matrix. So it can be attached with, or prepared with, or you can say activated with presence of uh, either of these biochemical agents. So if you take an example of influenza virus, for example, there are so many subtypes. So whenever you talk about any vaccine for influenza, it is really difficult, and every year you are going to have its variants, and the processes need to be optimized again. The another challenge when we say about virus purification, it could be composition of different subtypes are there in viruses. So the composition again is going to vary, like in case of adenoviruses or adeno-associated viruses. Example just which is known to you. So you have to choose a very specific ligand which should selectively react with the virus and its strain subtype of your interest. But when you are talking about purification, of course, a common thing, the conserved region in the common proteins, they are also used as a ligand, they can be targeted. But beyond that, you have to select the specific ligand for which is appropriate for the given virus subtype or variant. Another requirement when you are talking about purification of viruses, here I have mentioned lectins, but when you are using uh, it for preparation of a pharmaceutical product, that is vaccine, and that is to be introduced into the animals or human beings, you have to check for the potential toxic hazards, if whether it is going to have any toxic effect, if along with the viral component which you are introducing as the vaccine, if along with that, if lectin particles they also come along, then it might lead to toxic effects, right? So in such cases, you should select uh, appropriate illusion conditions also, so that there are no support matrices, or the ligands which are attached to support matrices will get eluted and will by chance come along with your purified product, especially in case of injectables and uh, examples like vaccine. So in case of pure virus preparation for vaccine production, when it comes to the ligands are generally glycans, they are used, carbohydrates they are used. Of course, the process setups are to be very specifically done, and careful ligand selection is a must when we talk about application of affinity chromatography for purification of viruses. Now, when you say about various applications of affinity chromatography beyond preparation of virus and virus fragments, you have as we have discussed in previous lectures, you have use of boronates and protein A or protein G, and again immunoaffinity support for uh, direct quantification of the solutes. Right, so quantification is one of the application where what ligand you will use is going to depend upon the specific nature of the analyte biomolecule that you are working with. Of course, new techniques which use antibody based columns for online and offline sample extraction, when they are examined in details, uh, uh, the methods like that is most useful is affinity chromatography, but not alone. In combination with other analytical methods like reverse phase liquid chromatography, gas chromatography, you can use the uh, uh, the affinity chromatography column, and then these techniques can be used for examination of the analyte. So for example, virus particle, so it is to be first purified, and then you have to confirm its properties. That can be done when your column chromatography is connected with other methods like reverse phase liquid chromatography, gas chromatography. So as I said earlier, you are going to have different chromatographic methods which are explored together in combination for purification of biomolecules and further their analysis. So indirect analyte detection methods also are there, which are going to use immunoaffinity chromatography, right? Indirect analyte detection, direct and indirect, like in ELISA you have heard these terms. So similarly here you can say indirect analyte detection methods, they have talked about affinity where immunomolecules like antibodies are used. and they are therefore immunoassays, you can say, quantification of the immunocomponents. Other applications that are talked related to affinity based chromatography are chiral separations. Chiral chirality is very much factor when we talk about chemistry of any biomolecule. So you can study the chiral nature of the analyte, and you can separate the components on the basis of their chirality. So chiral separation, whenever you want, you can use affinity chromatography, and this kind of study is required whenever you are studying some drug or hormone or even basic biomolecular structures. So you are going to require it when you are studying the interaction with binding proteins also. So it's not only about separation, but it is about interaction with binding proteins that you can study about. Further developments when you talk about that of affinity chromatography, then synthetic dyes, we have talked about it yesterday, right? Mimic dyes, biomimetic dyes, we have talked about it. Then immobilized metal ions, we have taken the example of calcium ion and other metal ions also. Then molecular imprints or aptamers. Aptamers, that is single stranded polynucleotides which are used, that we have discussed in previous lecture. So all these can be used when you are talking about affinity methods for purification, quantification, and assays of the system. So here I am sharing certain uh, applications with respect to what kind of affinity class it belongs to. So what ligand you will be using. So if we say activated or functionalized ones, so you are going to have functional spacers, support matrices, and which is going to eliminate handling of toxic reagents. Fine. What are going to be the specific classes? So you may say amino acids. So where application is study of serum protein, peptides, enzymes, rRNA or double-stranded DNA could be analyzed or studied. When you are going to have purification of certain proteins, engineered proteins, for example, so biotinylated biomolecules or biotinylated protein you have to have, so that you can explore avidin biotin system. If you are talking about carbohydrate binding as a ligand, then you can purify soluble glycoproteins or other components which are going to have carbohydrate as one of their components using carbohydrate binding. Also, lectins we have talked about, they can be used because lectins selectively bind to the carbohydrates and glycoproteins have carbohydrates, so you can choose lectin system also. Diligand, yes, we have talked about it earlier, wherein we have talked about dextran blue as an example, and retrovis history we have discussed it in previous lecture. So depending upon what you want to purify, what is going to be the potential application, you can decide its affinity class and use a specific ligand and prepare your support matrix accordingly, or rather I should say choose your support matrix accordingly, because these days all different types of support matrices with varied types of ligands and functionalities are available on the market. Now it comes to, when it comes to measure the free fractions of various drugs in serum, say therapeutic applications. Again, new one we are talking here about. If a drug or medicine is given to a animal or a patient human organism, then what amount of that drug remains in the blood circulating, blood circulation or particular tissue fluid, that is to be analyzed, and kinetics can be measured or studied of that drug. So in such cases you have to have serum component to be fractionated and presence of desired analyte in that particular fraction to be quantified. So two-dimensional high-performance affinity chromatographic systems are used in this case. Two dimension. What is one dimension? What is two dimension? We have studied it in previous lectures. So high-performance affinity chromatography, of course, when we talk about the high performance column chromatography, we have learned that. So you are going to make use of columns which are suitable for high performance based on the pressure that is applied using pumps, so that separation is going to proceed at a highest efficiency possible, and you can overcome the problems which are associated with uh, low performance column chromatography systems, like for example clogging of the column at higher lengths, etc. That is what we have discussed earlier. So in one word to say, when you want to measure the free fractions which are present in the serum at any given time of a therapeutic molecule or a drug molecule or a medicine given, you can use two-dimensional high-performance affinity chromatographic system. For example, various drug models that have been studied using this two-dimensional high-performance affinity chromatography are diazepam, glysa, I'm sorry, glyciclazide, right, acetohexamide, etc. These are some of the examples where people have utilized it successfully. So I have just named it just to get an idea what kind of a drug. It could be a specific serum sample from a diabetic patient to monitor the drug molecule which is used for controlling the sugar level in the serum. So to what, if the patient is given, say, a specific unit of that drug at, say, 12 noon, to how long that molecule remains in its blood circulation, at what quantity, and at what rate it is excluded from the system, that is, excretory system, cleaning of the serum that automatically takes in the body. So, what is the retention time of that analyte? That is to be studied, right? So that you can decide the dose and the frequency of the dose and so many things based on that. So serum samples are taken, and you are going to go with two-dimensional system. So when I say two-dimensional system, and say for example it is human serum that you are studying, then human serum albumin has HAS. You can remember the word as a keyword. So human serum albumin columns are used. So here again, uh, do you remember in column chromatography we had talked about solid phase extraction, or we had talked about purification of analyte or pre-columns. These terms we have learned, right? So whenever you are using a biological sample where there are going to be diverse types of materials or samples present in the given sample solution. For example, when we say serum, there are n number of components present in it, or urine sample, n number of components are present in it, and you need to purify and concentrate the analyte of your interest. So in that case, you are using pre-columns. So here also, you can use a small column which is referred to as micro column, and this micro column is again having support matrix where human serum albumin is used, and extraction of a free drug fraction you can do. So large volume of serum needs to be passed down to this column, so that whatever traces amount of that drug analyte or medicine analyte are present in the serum at given time, they are to be concentrated, so that extraction should be done, and for which you are going to use the micro column, which is going to act as a pre-column, or concentration of the analyte can be done. And then you are going to go for analytical column, which is again human serum albumin analytical column, for further separation and measurement of the fraction. So protein, and here is albumin that you are talking about. So interaction of that albumin protein should be there when you are talking as affinity chromatography system to be utilized. So you are going to have studies related to the presence or retention of a drug in the body, where you are going to use a pre-column and analytical column. Both are going to work on affinity principle, and of course you have to optimize a system for every different type of analyte or every new drug that you are testing. So you are going to include the flow rate, the column size, column switching time, right? Column switching time, that is pre-column to analytical column, like that, that you have to optimize. But it is uh, very much found that, or proved that, these systems are useful and are highly efficient, because within 5 to 10 minutes and with very minimum amount of serum sample, say 5 microliter to 10 microliter serum sample, you can check the presence of desired drug in the serum at a given period of time. So you have given the uh, medicine to the uh, experimental system, that is animal or human being in this case, and then after a specific interval you are removing small amount of blood, taking the serum out of it, and then analyzing it for the presence of the drug. So it needs to be concentrated and then analyzed. So two-dimensional affinity chromatography is used in this purpose. Now, next is certain examples that we are talking about, like carbohydrates and lectins. In previous lecture also we have talked about lectins. So these are the proteins that have ability to bind to sugar moieties. So any biomolecule which is going to have surface a presence of carbohydrate or sugar moiety on its surface, it can bind with the lectins, right? So these lectins can be utilized for purification of selected glycoconjugates, that is, the biomolecule having glyco, that is sugar or carbohydrate moiety. So they are going to have the columns which are having lectins as ligand, and as you pass down the sample, the glycoconjugates or molecules, say glycoproteins for example, they will bind onto these lectins, and once they are bound, you have to wash the column so that all unwanted, unbound components in the sample, they will get eluted from the column. You have the column now only with lectin and the glycoprotein or glycoconjugate of your interest. Now this complex needs to be resolved so that your analyte glycoprotein or glycoconjugate is eluted. So you have to weaken the interaction between lectin and that analyte. So it could be done by competitive displacement method. So competitive inhibitor is the term that we have used in enzymology, right? Also in the previous lecture with reference to affinity chromatography, we have talked about it in details, how competitive displacement works. But I'll take one example in the next slide to make you clear about competitive displacement, how it works. So competitive displacement using a another sugar which is having more interaction with the glycoconjugate is to be used, so that your analyte glycoconjugate or glycoprotein that you are interested in, which was bound to the lectin ligand, will get separated from it and will be eluted. So you can purify that. So purification of glycoconjugates, purification of polysaccharides, then you can fractionate the cell parts. So cell parts based on their glyco component, you can separate them from non-glyco components or similar molecules. Then you can purify glycoproteins from other glycoconjugate molecules, so proteins and non-proteins, right? You can remove carbohydrate containing impurities from a protein solution. So this is something different. Till now we were talking about purification of glycoprotein from other materials. Now in the last point we are talking about removing carbohydrate containing impurity from a protein solution. So the protein uh, that you are interested in must be purified and all unwanted carbohydrate containing impurities to be removed. So lectins will anchor all these carbohydrate impurities and only pure protein will run down the column. Avidin biotin system, we have talked about it. So affinity chromatography, where cofactor is the avidin biotin system is used. So biotinylated molecules will get retained into the column and all other will get washed down. So you have to have the molecule of your interest along with the biotin tag. So we have seen in yesterday's discussion with example of um, uh, bioengineered proteins, where how we use a specific plasmid, how it is engineered, and how you introduce biotin at the time of gene expression or post-translational modification. How is biotin added to the molecule under study? How to biotinylate a biomolecule that we have seen. So I'm not going to repeat on that, but it is one of the applications based on the different ligand system. So I'm taking here, and we have seen the limitations also of avidin biotin system, because avidin and biotin, they react very strongly with each other. So once your analyte having avidin gets bound onto the column matrix, the column matrix contains biotin. So the column matrix biotin and avidin of the analyte, they interact strongly, and then separating these pair is very difficult. So you have to apply very harsh conditions, and that may denature the protein of your interest, right? So it can deactivate your molecule of interest. So generally what people do is biotin derivatives are utilized rather than original biotin molecule. So the derivative which is commonly been talked about is 2-immunobiotin. So biotin molecule is having immuno groups added to that, and then the affinity with avidin is little less. The selectivity is retained, but it is not so strong that it cannot be easily separated. They can be easily separated when you add immuno derivative of biotin. So such modifications are required to get better and better separations. So this is another one, IMAC, where you are using metal ion as uh, ion that is immobilized on the support matrix, and affinity chromatography, where metals are going to be used as ligands. So they are used for preparation of or purification of amino acids, peptides, proteins, nucleic acids, etc. So metal ions are immobilized within the column, and with the help of chelating agents like diacetic acid. I'm sorry, immunodiacetic acid or carboxymethylated aspartic acid, you can immobilize it, and then you can use it for selective purification of analyte. Now here, another example, that is the immunoaffinity that we have referred to and have studied in previous lecture, that talks about use of immobilized antibodies, right? So you are going to have immobilized antibodies in the column, so that they are going to be acting as ligands, and selective antigen or protein having that particular interactive group will get bound to the antibody, will be retained in the column. So it can be called as immunoaffinity. So many immunoaffinity methods are available, like that for we talked, not only for purification of hormones, enzyme, peptides, viruses, and other substances, but again, you can use affinity chromatography for purification of antibodies also. So antibody as ligand and antibody as a product, both the things we have talked. For example, purification of monoclonal antibodies. In previous lecture, we have talked in details about it. So there are different methods, right? So when you are talking about purification using these methods, uh, ligand is to be uh, ligand is to be used, which is going to be selective. You have to control the flow rate, you have to control the other parameters which are going to allow adequate separation of the desired molecule, right? Now there are certain more slides which I would like to share with you with reference to uh, the different mechanisms that are used for elution that I was talking to you about. We in yesterday's lecture we have talked about use of various tags, right? So biotin is one of the tag, like that GST tag, glutathione tag, all these we have referred to and have talked about it. Now here I am sharing a slide wherein if elution of the affinity column with the help of competitive inhibition or competitive displacement. That is what we refer to, so that you get to know the term to better details, right? What is competitive inhibition or competitive displacement? So I'm sharing the slide to make you understand that. Yes, I hope it is seen. Now, this is what is we are seeing, illusion of affinity column. So, illusion of affinity column can be done by two methods. First is a competitive uh, illusion. So, in competitive illusion, target that is uh, attached to your column should be eluted. So it should be made free from the ligand, right? So for whenever you are looking for mild elution system, that is there are no harsh conditions, that is extreme ionic concentration of salts or extreme pH, which is going to harm the protein and its functionality. So we have to use mild elution. So when we say mild elution, then we talk about competitive elution system. So the working is based on displacement of immobilized fusion product. So in Marathi to say, it is like playing Coco game. So you know how Coco is played, right? So one one player is sitting at a particular point, the another player comes running and gives ko and takes his seat, and the player who receives ko starts running, right? On similar line here, displacement is there, but it is based on relative interactions. If the relative interaction is stronger than the analyte which is bound to ligand, then displacement can easily occur. So the molecule which is having strong affinity for your analyte or for the ligand is to be added. So if you see this schematic diagram, then matrix is there onto which you have fixed the ligand, and then the purified compound which is having specificity, biological specificity for the ligand, will get attached onto it. So your column is now ready. It is run. It is developed. Next step will be elution. So the analyte of your interest is to be displaced from the bound ligand. How it can be done when we talk about competitive displacement method or competitive elution method, there we are going to add something, some molecule which is having a stronger affinity, a stronger interaction with the analyte, or a stronger affinity with the ligand, either of the two things. So this particular elution component will interact strongly with the complex formed. So it will displace the analyte from the ligand and bind with it and come down the column. This is one way. As you are seeing, green color is the analyte of your interest, yellow color is competitive elution component. So when it is added, the complex was initially formed, that of ligand and the analyte. But as this elution component is added in the buffer, what happens? This green color molecule, your analyte, is removed from the ligand, red color stand, that is ligand, and this green colored analyte, the analyte which is shown in green color, has formed a complex with yellow colored eluting component, or the one which is going to have a strong interaction with it. And so now your column is again free of any analyte. It is again ready to reuse. So there was a competition for interaction between the ligand and this competitive eluter molecule. So competitive eluter molecule has got attached to your analyte, and now it will run down the column in the mobile phase, right? And then you will analyze whatever is coming in the elution fragment, right? So uh, second method is non-competitive elution. So in this case of affinity chromatography process, what we are going to use a mobile phase, the elution buffer that we talk about, which is going to be very strong and very selective for weakening the reaction between ligand and analyte. So what is your aim is to release the bound analyte from the column. So for that purpose, you are going to use a mobile phase or elution buffer, which is having um, a gradient uh, buffer system. For example, as we have discussed in earlier lectures, ki isocratic system for elution and gradient system for elution. Isocratic, where only one solvent is used. For example, in this case, one elution buffer with specific pH, ionic concentration and molarity you are going to use as mobile phase. But when we talk about gradient, you are going to keep on changing the pH and ionic strength. You are going to go for making it so strong that the interaction between the ligand and the analyte are weakened, and ligand gets displaced off from the sorry, the analyte gets displaced off from the ligand, and the free analyte now will run down the column and come in the elution fraction. So here you are playing with the elution buffer composition. You are changing its pH, you are changing its ionic concentration, and creating the conditions such that the interaction between ligand and the analyte are weakened, and so the analyte bound to the ligand will get displaced and will move down the column along with the mobile phase, the elution buffer, and then such fractions you are collecting and you are analyzing it for the desired analyte. So this is just to uh, reconnect you with the term how displacement is uh, used as a method for illusion of a column, affinity column, uh, as we have discussed in one of the examples here. uh, I think it was related to lectins, right? So harsh treatment is required, so you have to go for uh, uh, changing the elution buffer pH and ionic strength such that it is going to be extreme pH 2.5 to 4 is required many a times. So that may affect your biomolecule nature. But uh, this can be taken care of by replacing the type of ligand, right? But when you are using uh, the single elution buffer of specific pH and ionic strength and molarity, then you are going to get displacement without any competitor that is added to it. You don't have any specific reagent required which is having maybe a structural analog which is going to strongly interact. So competitive elution and non-competitive elution, I hope is clear to you when it comes to illusion of affinity column. So with this, we have tried to summarize with some examples use of affinity chromatography in uh, uh, or you can say application of affinity chromatography in study of biomolecules, right? So in short to say, you can use affinity chromatography for enzyme preparations or enzymatic studies. You can isolate enzymes. Then you can go for purification of antibodies. You can use it for study of biological interactions. You can have its application in clinical studies related to say monitoring the movement of a drug analyte in a experimental animal, the serum of the experimental animal. Or you can say you can detect the trace analytes, you can determine the glycohemoglobin, right? You can study the drug and hormone interactions when it comes to applications of affinity chromatography. You can separate glycoproteins from non-glycosylated proteins, right? Or you can uh, separate the glycoforms from one another. So there are two different glycoforms with two different sugars or carbohydrate residues or glycans attached to it. So you can separate those. So uh, you have a exact sugar ligand for the desired protein that you are going to apply there, and you can separate the glycoforms of a protein. So these are overall various applications of affinity chromatography in pharmaceutical and biomedical and biological studies, right from enzymes to viruses. We have tried to take a glimpse of it which is just an overview so that you can get the idea. Of course, it's really very vast and is been explored to maximum, explored maximally, and has lot many applications when it comes to affinity chromatography in biomedical research and biomedical industry and therapeutics, etc. So, uh, wherever there are biomolecules, affinity chromatography, the phenomena which works on biological specificity, is going to find its applications, right? So, applications are immense. So, when we talk about any kind of biomolecule, its biological specificity you have to explore, and it can be used to quantify, qualitatively analyze, purify, separate, compare, study its kinetic behavior, and so on and so forth. Its interaction with other molecules, right? So, in all these aspects, affinity chromatography is of use. So, I think with this, I will conclude today's lecture as